Opening day week is here, and the Washington Nationals are having their first game in just 2 days, but they still have not finalized their roster. They have 2 positions that are still up for grabs, and really 3 that we're going to get into after this.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as our show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And of course, look up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcast, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, and of course, the video version of this said podcast you can check out over on YouTube. Again, just search Locked On Nationals. A little bit later on in today's program, the Nationals announced their new Nats City Connect uniforms, and I've got some thoughts. The Cherry Blossoms, are they better than the Cherry Blossoms? We'll discuss that in the third segment of today's show. But in the second segment, we'll be discussing Bob Carpenter and announcing that 2025 will be his final season on Masson, and really the final season of the Nats on Masson as well. So we got to send out Bob Carpenter in the best way possible, because this guy is an institution in the district. We'll discuss that in the second segment of today's program, but we start off discussing some roster moves and really what should be happening for the Nationals moving forward with these moves. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Again, that is FanDuel.com. So the Nationals have some position battles up for grabs, most notably the backup catcher, the bullpen, and as well as that 26th man on this roster. It's really between Juan Yepez and Jose Tena. So we'll discuss all 3 of those things, but I want to start off with the Nationals bullpen. And right now, the bullpen is set as this: Kyle Finnegan, Jose Frere, Jorge Lopez, Lucas Sims, Colin Poche, and Eduardo Salazar, who kind of made the team as a relatively surprising move. I did not expect Salazar to be in this conversation back about a month ago, but here we are. So the Nationals, they have got 2 bullpen spots remaining, and you've got 3 names here: Orlando Ribalta, Brad Lord, and Jackson Rutledge. So to make this easiest, I'm going to go with the one guy of those 3 that should be sent down to AAA. And it's going to surprise you. I would send down Brad Lord. And you might be thinking to yourself, Ryan, we have seen you time and time again dunk on Jackson Rutledge, and he is an easy one to dunk on, and you're right. But I do think Jackson Rutledge should make this team. And it's not for the reasons that you might think. The role that between those 3 guys, the role that they will be playing is not going to be your setup guy. It's not going to be in a tie ball game in the 7th inning, this person is going to come in. Ribalta might work his way into that role eventually, but I don't think the Nationals are there with him just yet. But the reason why I have Brad Lord going down to AAA is for the sincere fact that he is not ready to be an everyday starter. He is not ready to even just throw him in the bullpen at this point and call him a reliever. I want to see more of Brad Lord down at the AAA level. At this time last year, he was starting in high A Wilmington. This guy was a single A player just 1 year ago. There is no reason at all to rush him up into the majors at this point in time. And just also put him in a box and say that he's going to be a long-term reliever. Because if you listen to what Davey Martinez says, one of the 3 of these guys are going to be a innings eater, come out of the bullpen in a sloppy game and eat 3 to 4 innings, hopefully, and do well. That's the role that Davey Martinez is looking for from one of the 3 of these guys. I think that screams Jackson Rutledge at this point. My decision would be Jackson Rutledge, and I hopefully the Nationals, they say the same thing here. Because in that role, there's really no room for growth. Like, if you were to just say Brad Lord is going to go out there and be the Javi Guerra of 2019, where he's coming in when the Nationals are losing by 4 in the 7th inning, and you say, just go out there, eat some innings, save the bullpen, and that's going to be your job. I think Brad Lord has a higher ceiling than that. I'm going to assume that Orlando Ribalta is already on this team at this point. I think he has done enough. I think he'll be a key part of this bullpen down the road here. But I really think it's between Brad Lord and Jackson Rutledge. And I think Jackson Rutledge, best case scenario with him at this point, is that this is going to be his role. Is that Jackson Rutledge will come into games and just eat innings. And hopefully maybe just keep it relatively close and do well at it. Throw some strikes. That's really what this role is about. It's not about who's better. In my opinion, it's not even close. Brad Lord is the better prospect this time than Jackson Rutledge. And I think the Nationals would probably agree with that. And that is why Lord should be down in AAA also. Because Brad Lord, he's got the potential to be a sincere starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. But to just put him in a box and throw him in the bullpen and say, go eat some innings and keep us in this ball game and let's keep fighting for the next day. That should not be his role at this point. And I think that's what Davey Martinez has kind of envisioned for this final bullpen job here, assuming that Ribalta makes it. Do you want to see one of your prospects just kind of get thrown in there, and one of your key pitching prospects, by the way, just get thrown in there after he has looked so good all spring long and just say, you're going to be a long-term reliever, and that's it? I don't think that's fair. And I don't think the Nationals should do that, by the way, because it does not make sense as far as a baseball move goes. Brad Lord is a starter for now. Now, the Nationals, they have not utilized him as a starter throughout spring training, but I also think that's because they've wanted to see Shin Ogasawara take his cuts there in spring training. They've wanted to see Mitchell Parker, DJ Hers, who actually just got placed on the 15-day IL after being sent down to AAA Rochester, by the way, that we can discuss a little bit later on in the show. But you have to think about your future also. And Brad Lord, in my opinion, still is in consideration to be a future part of this team. And Jackson Rutledge, for me, is not at this point. Now, if Brad Lord goes down to AAA and proves that he's not ready to be a starter or he's just not a starter at all, then bring Brad Lord up and do what you have to do. The Nationals are in a win-now mode. So they very well may say, well, Brad Lord is a better pitcher, and we want to see him in this role, and he's going to get the job. And I think that could be a real possibility here. But the smart baseball move that the Nationals should make is give this role to Jackson Rutledge, have Brad Lord go down in the minors again, have him in AAA, and as soon as someone gets hurt, him and DJ Hers, they'll be on call, and they'll be up in the majors making a start or being in the bullpen or doing what they have to do, because those two guys, you're going to want to have them right. Jackson Rutledge, you can keep him cold and have him get hot and throw a few innings in a blown out game, but that's really the role that I envision for this final reliever spot. There's also another spot open for debate at this point, and it is the backup catcher role. Not only that, Jose Tena and Juan Yepez. Let's start with Jose Tena and Juan Yepez. This is kind of like the 26th man, the final man on this team. I think it's important for this note here. Jose Tena has no options left. Tena is a young, people were talking about Tena being a key figure for this Nationals team. There were at times where I thought he was going to be your opening day third baseman. And then the Nationals signed Paul DeJong. Obviously, we have Brady House. Things happen. But still, Jose Tena should be on this team. This is a good, solid hitter. He's going to need some work overall, but he can play third base. You can throw him in the outfield. You can really throw him anywhere in the infield. And Juan Yepez, while he's kind of had that same luck, and I think that Yepez might be the better hitter today, but letting go of Jose Tena, someone's going to snatch him up on the waiver wire. You got to keep Jose Tena at this point in time. It's the best way to continue to build this team. Have young talent, give them opportunities. And even then, a few weeks ago, I was still saying Jose Tena is going to get consistent at bats. I would still like to see that, even with Paul DeJong having a pretty strong spring training at third base. If I'm the Nats, I'm keeping Tena. He has got the ability to be a really good hitter in this big league for the Nationals moving forward. And really, if he's a utility guy for you, coming out being a pinch hitter, that's a great scenario to have because he does have the ability to hit home runs, hit for power, and overall be a good above average major league hitter. So I'm keeping Jose Tena. In my opinion, it's not even that close of a discussion at this point. But a closer discussion, at least to some, is who will get that backup catcher role. Will it be Riley Adams or will it be Andrew Knizner? I'll have that answer for you after we tell you about our good friends over at Just Ingredients. And of course, I have told you that when it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substance banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. So I love the Just Ingredients that prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk, because if you really check some of these sites, they don't have these things and you need them, and you can have it at our friends at Just Ingredients with their grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout that deliver real results. Just visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. Now, let me tell you guys about our friends over at Monarch Money. As we get started with this show, do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center so you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery, and now I budget smarter and save more. I was using all my money on DoorDash and Uber Eats, and it just got to be too expensive, and Monarch really woke me up to that, and they told me how to save. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances and track your spending and even plan long-term goals and track your shared and personal accounts and set goals. That is really a key part when you're in your mid-20s, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So, as we were saying, there is one final spot up for grabs. I've already told you between the three bullpen guys, Ribalta, Brad Lord, and Jackson Rutledge, I've got Orlando Ribalta and Jackson Rutledge taking up those final two bullpen spots, joining Kyle Finnegan, Jose Ferrer, Jorge Lopez, Lucas Sims, Colin Poche, and Eduardo Salazar. Then also Jose Tena and Juan Yepez. That final utility spot, I've got Jose Tena taking that role. But there's one more left here. Backup catcher, Riley Adams or Andrew Knizner. If we're just being honest here, it's not the most ideal scenario. But I can say this, the Nationals feel really good about Keibert Ruiz going into this season. They think he's going to have a big year, so I'll believe them. I trust in it. I think the Nationals really know best here in this scenario, and Keibert did look really good this spring training. He looked a bit better, a little bit more polished defensively, and looked better offensively as well. So then it comes to your backup catcher, probably the biggest backup spot that you've got on this team. Riley Adams or Andrew Knizner? It's Riley Adams for me. I think that Andrew Knizner kind of came in knowing that he was not going to win this job. Obviously, he had a fighter's chance, but I don't think that he deserves this job at this point. He did not look good at the plate. He did not look good defensively. And if you look at his numbers overall, he's really not that big of an improvement defensively speaking. Now, there were at times where I thought Knizner would be maybe a solid defender, but it just simply has not worked that way throughout his career. And I think Riley Adams, while again, he's not a solid defensive catcher either, he's a little bit better. But also, Riley Adams provides something that not many people provide on this team outside of Josh Bell, James Wood, CJ Abrams, and a few others. That is power, and power off the bench. Riley Adams can actually hit the baseball pretty damn well. And we've seen it from him in multiple years now. Get off to really hot starts. There were some people this past season, maybe on this podcast, that were calling for Riley Adams to start over Keibert Ruiz at times last year. He was that good. And also, same with 2 years ago. The guy can hit for power. And he can hit. He can flat out hit. He is a solid backup catcher. Now, when you have someone who is so poor defensively, like Ruiz is at this point in his career, you would like to see someone who is a solid to good backup defender there in the backstop there, like a Drew Millis type. But Drew Millis cannot do it offensively at this point. Like, it's very subpar as far as that position goes. So it has to be Riley Adams. With all things considered, he's as good, if not better, as a defender as Keibert Ruiz. He is, well, I'm not going to say he's better offensively, but he has the ability to be better offensively, and he's certainly better than Andrew Knizner at this point. So the backup catcher, it's not going to be some sexy new pick. It's going to be Riley Adams. I do want to talk about this, though, real quick. Yesterday, right before the exhibition game, that in typical Nats fashion was rained out at like 2 p.m., an hour after first pitch. It was supposed to be an exhibition between the Orioles and the Nats. They should have just canned it 2 days ago and not wasted people's time, but that's whatever at this point. Bob Carpenter, the voice of Nationals baseball on the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network, has announced that 2025 will be his final season calling Washington Nationals games. Now, I think a lot of us knew this publicly. I think he's acknowledged it in years past, but he was kind of back and forth. But he went on the record yesterday. He made it clear that 2025 will be his final year on the call for some of the most, one of the biggest guys as a child growing up in DC that I just looked up to. I'm 25 years old. I've been a Nats fan my whole life. I know a lot of people who grew up in this area were originally Orioles fans, or maybe you went out of market to root for a team outside of this DC market. But I'm one of the few here who grew up as a Nationals fan, grew up watching Bob Carpenter and FP Santangelo, and seeing these guys now call it a career, it's pretty astounding. It makes me feel really, really old, if I'm just being honest. And I'm just 25, and I know that. But Bob Carpenter is an institution in this market. The voice of Nationals baseball, the see you later call on home run calls that he has had for the last 15 or 19 seasons on the call with the Nationals. He is Nationals baseball. He has been with us through the worst of it in the mid-late 2000s. He has been with us through the best of times from the 2010s to winning a World Series in 2019. And he has been back down the mountain over the last 5 seasons here in DC where they have not been good. They have won about 40% of their games. And it's been a tough time for a lot of announcers in this post-pandemic world where you don't get to travel to games, where your routine kind of just gets lifted up and you're calling baseball games off a monitor. Bob Carpenter was a professional throughout all the turbulent times that COVID provided a lot of people out there in media. And meeting him a few times in person, could not have been a better guy. One thing that I think Bob Carpenter was and will be known for is a family man. I mean, I've seen him at the ballpark many times with his grandchildren, his kids, watching baseball games before and after games. Will walk around with his grandkids in the concourse there. And I've always thought it's really cool because, again, like while I do sort of work in the media and while I guess you could call him a coworker, I mean, I still look at Bob Carpenter as that same 12-year-old Ryan Clary did back in the day, watching Bryce Harper take his first at-bat, watching Juan Soto go opposite field with Bob Carpenter on the call in his very first game, watching Trey Turner make his debut, Steven Strasburg making his debut. Like, Bob Carpenter has been here with you and I through all of it. And to see him call it a career after this season, I mean, he deserves the biggest send-off possible in the best way that you can, because Bob Carpenter, legend in this market, one of the best play-by-play guys in baseball, in my opinion, and will go down as one of the most legendary Nats figures as far as the media goes in their lifetime at this point. Bob Carpenter, you are a legend, and you've got the 2025 season to celebrate it. So we can't wait to see this season, how the Nationals continue to honor him as he gets set for his final season calling Nationals baseball. But now, let's get into some new City Connect uniforms. A lot of people are out there, and I think I'm ready to say they're better than the Cherry Blossoms. I'll discuss that after I tell you about our good friends over at FanDuel. And March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. And I've got my eye on a few underdogs this year, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. And Terps fans, I've got some bad news. While I do have some underdogs, but it's not going to be the Maryland Terps this year. I've got the Florida Gators beating them on Thursday night, but you can also go the other route and have 10-seed Arkansas. I've got them in the Final Four this year. That is my tournament underdog. And with tournament games happening nearly almost every single day starting this Thursday, there's always something exciting to bet on. So all you have to do is visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Again, that is FanDuel.com, and get in on the March Madness tournament action now. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So the Nationals announced their new City Connect uniforms, and my God, they did it again. I think these uniforms are awesome. Awesome. They've got like the city grid on them in the background of the front and the back. And it's like the jersey features the city's iconic street grid in tones of American denim. We wear our city streets on our heart, and all roads lead home. Also, the DC, kind of the old DC logo from back in like the Ryan Zimmerman early on days with like, Levon Hernandez, Demetri Young, teams like that, Ronnie Belliard, Willie Harris, Felipe Lopez. That DC logo on their left chest that I grew up watching, they brought it back for these City Connect uniforms, and it's awesome. The interlocking DC receives a special 3D treatment in reference to the Block W worn by the 1956 Washington Senators. So it's a cool little nod also to the Senators, but kind of before we nerd out on what everything means, I just want to say, not many teams out there have hit 2 home runs in City Connect uniforms the way that the Nationals have. The Cherry Blossoms were by far the best in baseball. Everyone was upset to see them go, but they did it again. And in my opinion, I think these are even better than the cherry blossoms. I I don't know why. I love the hat. It's like kind of like that royal blue color, and they've got that mosaic detail on the sleeve also. I think these are awesome. And really, if you look at it, like the Nationals did it again. They have found a way to go 2 for 2 on these City Connect uniforms. And I'm just here to say, where do I buy one? Where do I get my James Wood jersey at? Where do I get my Mackenzie Gore jersey? My CJ Abrams, Luis Garcia, whoever, Jose Ferrer. I want his jersey. I think the Nationals, they did an awesome thing yet again. And I think kind of seeing these different shades of blue is a cool thing to have. Like, yes, the cherry blossom uniforms are awesome. You will see them rocked all season long by plenty of Nationals fans out there, but these are also really cool. And it's kind of rare to see a team out there go 2 for 2 on these City Connect uniforms because, again, it's rare. It's hard to get uniforms right. It's hard to design them. It's hard to make people buy them. And it's hard to connect them with the city. Yet they have done it on the City Connect uniforms. And I think, again, they did it. But to get more into like the nerdy things of kind of what the Nationals did, the arm patch and like the logo that you see at the W, you might notice in between where the W kind of meets in the middle there going up, the Capitol Dome is actually inside the block W, and it celebrates DC city architecture and also includes a nod to our beloved blossoms, which you can see there are 2 cherry blossoms on the side of the hat and also the patch that will be on their left sleeve. This is a cool thing. Again, I think it's really cool. Looking at these uniforms, the color blue, it's not really like a royal blue. I will say the hats are sick. It's like that royal Carolina bluish. At first, I thought there was going to be like a Carolina blue and a red print, kind of similar to the Fred Nats and what they've got down at their low A affiliate. That's not what they did. They went a little different. They went a little unique. And I think it's really cool. Like, a lot of people disagree. Some people are upset with it. I think they killed it. And where can I buy one? That's all I'll say. So let me know what you think about the Nats' new City Connect uniforms. I know a lot of people have some opinions about it. So let me know. You can tweet at me at RyanClary11. You can follow us on YouTube. Look up Locked On Nationals and leave a comment for me right then and there. I'll read it. I'll try to respond and get back to everyone. But of course, if you haven't checked it out, go to the Nats Twitter at Nationals on Instagram. And some of the Nationals have tweeted it out as well. So you can catch that and look at it for the first time if you haven't seen it already. But until then, I will catch you on the flip side. We are 2 days away from opening day. Have a good one. Go Nats.